Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into something called budget variances to uncover the real story that's often hidden inside the numbers. You ever see a company miss its targets and you just wonder, what actually went wrong? Well, we're about to find out. So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with the original plan, the budget. Then we'll see how it stacks up against what really happened. And then, and this is the important part, I'm going to show you a much better way to figure out what's truly going on with a company's performance.
All right, so every good analysis needs a starting point, right? A benchmark to measure against. In the business world, that plan is usually called the static budget. Just think of it like a snapshot in time. It's a fixed picture of what a company expects to happen. Before anything is even sold, management makes their best guess about sales, costs, the whole shebang, and they lock it in. It's totally rigid.
Now, to build this budget, companies have to set a standard price. And this isn't just some random number or an average of what things used to cost. No, it's a really careful estimate of what a cost should be if everything is running super efficiently. And along with that, they set a standard quantity. This is how much they think they can realistically produce, factoring in normal stuff like machine maintenance or a little bit of waste. It's supposed to be practical, not perfect. So here's the key thing to remember. The entire static budget, from top to bottom, is just built by multiplying these planned quantities by these planned prices. It's a pretty simple formula, but it's how companies set their expectations. But what happens when reality decides to do something completely different from the plan? Let's take a look at how we measure that gap between the forecast and what actually went down. So let's look at this example from a pet food company called Chowdown Inc. On the left, you've got their actual results for the period. And over on the right, you see that static budget they made way back at the beginning. The difference between those two columns gives us what's called the total static budget variance. For Chowdown, it's an unfavorable variance of almost $98,000. Unfavorable just means their actual profits were lower than what they budgeted for. And on the surface, well, that looks pretty bad. But here's the big question. Does that one big, ugly number really tell us what went wrong? I mean, is that enough information for a manager to actually go and fix the problem? Let's dig in. Of course, a big unfavorable number seems bad, but the story is almost always way more complicated. You could go yell at your production manager for high costs, but you might be completely missing the point because this one number, it mushes everything together. And this is where it gets really counterintuitive. Check out Chowdown's direct materials. It shows a favorable variance of over 160 grand. Now, favorable means the actual cost was better than the budget. But wait a minute, this is probably just because they sold way less dog food than they planned, so of course they used fewer materials. It's a good number that's actually hiding a huge problem. So to get some real clarity and actually make good decisions, we need a smarter tool, a more dynamic tool, one that can adapt to what really happened. So let's introduce the flexible budget. And this illustrates the difference perfectly. It's such a simple but powerful change. The flexible budget takes that same static budget formula and makes one critical swap. It yanks out the planned quantity and plugs in the actual quantity of units that were sold. What this does is it creates a new, much more relevant benchmark. It answers the question, okay, we actually sold 16,500 units. So based on that number, what should our revenue and costs have been? It gives you a true apples-to-apples comparison. And that's the absolute key to making better decisions. So how do you actually make one of these? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You start with your original static budget. Then you figure out your per unit standard costs for everything that changes with production. Materials, labor, stuff like that. Finally, you just apply those per unit costs to your actual sales number, and you just keep your fixed costs the same. Okay, now we've got the tool we need. Let's go back to our friends at Chowdown and use this flexible budget to finally solve the mystery of that $98,000 unfavorable variance. This is where the magic happens. By slotting the flexible budget right there in the middle between our actual results and our original static budget, we can break that one big, confusing number into two smaller, much more meaningful pieces. The first piece of the puzzle is the flexible budget variance. This tells us all about efficiency. It answers the question, for the number of units we actually made, did we control our costs and prices well? It's all about how good we were at managing our spending. The second piece is the sales volume variance. This is purely about sales performance. It answers, how much of our problem was simply because we sold a different number of units than we planned to in the first place? So check this out. This breakdown tells the real story. That nearly $98,000 problem wasn't just one thing. About 65 grand of it was a sales volume problem. They just sold 1,500 fewer units than they thought they would. The other 33 grand was an efficiency problem. For the units they did make, they spent more than they should have. See, now a manager knows exactly where to start asking questions.
So let's wrap this up. A static budget is great for setting a target, but its variance is just too blunt. By using a flexible budget, managers can untangle the issues. They can stop asking this vague question of what happened and start asking really specific questions to the right people, the sales team about volume and the production team about controlling costs.
This kind of breakdown gives you the clarity you need to actually take effective action. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Knowing that the sales problem is almost twice as big as the efficiency problem, if you were the manager, where would you focus your attention first?